Okay, so here's your poll question for today. The amount of energy in a bucket of hot water is an example of an intensive property or an extensive property. So text in your vote to 99503.
I'll say that.
100% of you, it's an intensive property. Huh? Very good. Anyone care to differ? Because all of those people are wrong. Late voters. Before the polls close, some late votes have gotten in. That must be before. See. So what does that tell you about an extensive property? If extensive property is correct, what does that mean? It depends on what? No, an extensive property is the correct answer here. So an extensive property depends on what?
What does it have to do with the fact that it's the temperature of the water, not the
the amount of
Very good. It's the amount of substance that's in, or the amount of the substance that you have. The property is based on that. So can you think of another extensive property? The amount of something you have, what would change? Volume would change. Good. What else would change? Mass would change. Good. So an intensive property then does not depend on the amount of substance you have. What would that be? What would be an example of that? Good. Density. So over here, when you were doing that density calculation, it didn't matter what volume you had, right? It's all going to come out the same. What did you get for density, by the way? All right. So starting off with some just basic vocabulary for this chapter, just to kind of set the stage for the rest of the quarter. Chemistry is the study of the composition, the structure, and the properties of matter. Also, the energy that accompanies those changes. Okay? Or the changes in those things. So energy is an important part of all chemistry. Yes? Can you wait till... Okay. Basics, the branches of chemistry. Organic chemistry deals with carbon-containing compounds. This is closely associated with living organisms. However, this also includes things like hydrocarbons, which are fossil fuels, right? Plastics. You might not think of plastics as organic, but they really are. That is organic chemistry because most plastic is made from hydrocarbons. So that would fall under an organic chemist. Inorganic chemistry is the study of non-organic substances. So this has a lot to do with things like metals, metallurgy, and engineering, and physical chemistry. Okay. Physical chemistry is the study of the properties and changes of matter and how that relates to the energy associated with those changes. Okay. Analytical chemistry, when you have some unknown material and you are trying to identify what it is, its properties, the qualities that it has, that would be considered analytical chemistry. Where would the unknown chemical come from? From a variety of different places. It could be a byproduct of another reaction. It could be a byproduct from a living organism. It could have been generated experimentally. A variety of different ways we get unknown chemicals. Okay? Biochemistry would be studying the chemistry of living organisms. Living things, all of life is really can be boiled down to chemistry. That's why you study chemistry before you study biology. And then finally, theoretical chemistry. This is really the outer frontier, the outer edge of chemistry. This is the prediction of new elements, new behaviors under different, if you kind of change the laws of physics slightly, like reduce gravity or increase pressure, things like that, you can get some new and interesting things happening to the same old elements. Or you can generate even new elements, and that would be theoretical chemistry. So a chemical, just another basic definition here for you to be sure that you know, is any substance that has a definite composition. Something like sugar, sucrose, or water, or carbon dioxide. Okay. I think these three definitions here should be pretty well ingrained in your brains by now. But matter is anything that has mass and takes up space, or in other words, has mass and volume, right? The basic building blocks of matter. This should also be review, but I chose to include it just to be sure that you can differentiate between the three. An atom is the basic smallest unit of an element. An element is a pure substance that can't be further broken down. And a compound is a pure substance but could be broken down into something more stable or simpler. Okay? Here's our extensive properties, and we described these just a minute ago. Volume, mass, the amount of energy in a substance. Okay? Intensive property does not depend on the amount of matter that's present, such as the melting point, the boiling point. These things don't change. The density of a substance, its ability to conduct electricity. If you have a little bit of it, it'll still conduct electricity. If you have a lot of it, it still will, right? If it does, it will. Oops, sorry. The properties of matter. I put this table in here just to include it. I'm not really going to test you on these, but what is important here is that you understand that there are many different properties of matter that all matter has to one degree or another. For instance, some things conduct electricity, some things don't. Some things conduct it okay, some things conduct it better than others. But they're all of that's considered a property of matter, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Not gonna watch that today. This should be review as well, right? A physical property is a characteristic that can be observed or measured without changing the identity of the substance. A physical change would just be a change in what the substance, what form it's in. You can cut it up, grind it up, melt it, evaporate it, right? But it's really you haven't done anything to it to change its composition. Okay. Now the states of matter. This should be a review for you as well. Solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. This should also be reviewed. Solid has a definite volume and a definite shape. A liquid has a definite volume but an indefinite shape. And a gas has neither a definite volume nor a definite shape. Plasma is then something that we won't often deal with, but at very high temperatures, often electrons can be stripped away from an atom. And when those electrons are stripped away, what's left behind is the positively charged part of the atom, and that material is called plasma. That's another state of matter. Okay? What I'd like to talk about, though, real quick is the gas versus the liquid versus the solid state. What's the difference between all three of those states? If you're not changing the substance, what actually is changing? Who is that? What did you say? Good. The space between the molecules. Where is it larger? The gas has a much more space in between the molecules. What do you think controls the amount of space in between those molecules then? Energy. Very good. If you add more energy to the matter, that space grows, right? Most often. Okay? Why do you think it grows? What does the energy do that prevents it from being close together? Yeah. Good. So kinetic molecular theory, a chemical property is a property that's related to the changes that a substance undergoes when exposed to different substances. So how do things react with one another? Quite often a chemical change is associated with a chemical reaction.